All right then, guys. Welcome to the last video in the penultimate video in the NEA series. I'll do a brief video on how to reference, but that will literally only be like a couple minutes long as a video. So today we're going to look at how to approach the conclusion. Essentially, I'm not going to spend too much time focusing on this because I think the conclusion should be relatively straightforward if the rest of the essay is strong. The conclusion is usually only weak when the rest of the essay is a little bit weaker. But before moving on to the conclusion, I would like you to have a look at this checklist. This was given to you in your NEA handbooks. What I would do is I would go through your essays and just ensure that you are hitting all of these success criteria and all these questions essentially. So make sure that in your paragraphs, this is paragraphs, we kind of talk about sections. So make sure that your paragraph has source material, primary, secondary sources, view of the sources made clear, judgments made about the evidence, judgment based on evidence or simply asserted. You should be doing it on evidence. Is the paragraph relevant to the title? And is there an interim judgment? So is there a constant judgment at the end of each paragraph? All right. I would be using that to judge every single section. If you cannot answer those questions positively, then that means the mark that you're going to get is not going to be the one that you want, right? So it's really important that you take that checklist and go through your sections with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that you are happy before moving on. I also think it's worth getting like family members or friends or someone external to yourself to do this. So to maybe get them to read it and then to ask them these questions. And if they can't respond positively to the questions, then that basically means you've still got work to do. Okay, so use the checklist. That will make a big difference in your quality checking of your essays. So with the conclusion, this is what the examiners are looking for. First and foremost, we should state that there should be nothing new in your conclusion. Okay, if you start bringing in new ideas, new historians, new judgments, new primary sources, none of that should be happening. Okay, there should be absolutely nothing new in your conclusion. And this is why I've said earlier on in the video that the conclusion should be relatively straightforward if the rest of the essay is good. Okay, people only really struggle with the conclusion when the rest of the essay isn't up to scratch. So in your conclusion, you should the primary function of a conclusion is literally what it says here. It should be a case of reframing your overall judgment. Okay, so overall argument and judgment in relation to the question. Secondly, you want to restate your overall position in the context or in terms of the historiography. So make sure you're situating yourself in that historical debate. Where do you lie? What is your position in terms of the debate as well? So that's another really important thing as well. And then finally, briefly explain how your essay has proven your overall point, even if it feels like you are repeating yourself. Okay. So I'm going to go through some examples with you of some conclusions. Some of them don't do all of these, and that's what I mean about a conclusion is as long as you're reframing your overall argument, that's basically that's all you need to do essentially. But I would say if you want to get the highest marks and you want to impress the examiner the most, then you should be reframing your overall argument whilst also considering the position in terms of the historiography, and then also explaining how your essay has proven your overall point. So you probably want to say, well, initially we discussed the importance of the Enlightenment, and it was clear that, I don't know, the centrality of ideas to the cause of the French Revolution, and so on. So go through each section and just briefly explain what you basically argued. All right. Okay. So pause the videos as we go. So pause the video now. Okay, so if you resume, essentially this candidate's answer, like I said last time, off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact grade they got, but they were in, I think, level 4, level 5 overall. So that's like around the 30-ish mark out of 40. So there are some things missing. There's also this conclusion as well, which you'll probably want to pause the video. That's the one from the exam board. I think it's quite limited. I'm just going to talk you through this conclusion though, okay? Because this conclusion does kind of does cover most of what I'm saying, okay? So have a little read of this one. So pause the video, have a little read, and I'll talk you through this one. Okay, so first things first is this first paragraph that this candidate has given. So here, this is them doing point 2. So where it says, where I've said earlier about restating your overall position in terms of the historiography, that is basically what they are doing there, okay, in that first paragraph. So they're hitting point 2. They then go on to, in the second part of the conclusion, to restate their overall argument, which is really, really clear. So they're hitting point one in terms of what the examiners are looking for there. The only thing that is missing here is they don't really go back through kind of what they've covered in their essay. It's more just about restating their overall argument. That's not going to lose you marks, but I just think it's quite a nice thing to do if you just go through and say, you know, initially I focused on, for this candidate might talk about, initially I focused on, I don't know, like Stalin's, the reasons behind, the role of the 5-year plans and how they's linked to the terror or something like that. Okay. So that might be the way in which they go. So they go through like paragraph by paragraph. This is what I covered, and this is how it links to my overall argument. All right. You don't have to do that, but I think it just makes for a nicer read. But I would say don't stress too much about the conclusion for your first draft. The conclusion and the referencing are things that should be honed and kind of completed to a good standard towards the second and third reading of the draft. Okay. What we want to see in the first draft is we want to see a quality introduction and the essay meeting all the assessment objectives. Okay. So prioritize that. And then if you get a chance, really hone in and develop your conclusion. Okay. Right. I hope that was helpful. I would go back through if I were you and have a read through all of the example conclusions, work out what they are all doing that's similar, and use that to guide your own writing of the essay. Okay. Right. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the final video on the NEA series.